Hello and welcome back to AC's Make and Repair. Today on the channel, we're going to do a clean up and repair of an old Blacksmith post vise. I was given this old vise by a friend of mine who was lying on the ground near a shed on his farm. So today we're just going to clean it up to back to working order and make it tight again, remove the rust, etc. Come along with me and I'll show you some photos now of what it was like before, and then we'll get right into the cleanup. So before I start any major work on this particular job, just sort of take you through and have a quick look. I have put some spray on a couple of spots that needed a bit of spray to help free it up. It was down there on the swivel point. Leg's fairly good, but we have a major problem with the jaw. This side was lying on the ground. You can see there's a little bit of rust on this side. That's not a problem. And as we go down the legs, not too bad really. It's weathered quite well really for the age of it. The screw is quite good. I'll just undo that and show you. The screw is still quite good. It's probably 1.5 inch screw, I'd say. Just looking at that. And probably 1.5 inch easy. It still works quite fine. I will oil that a bit. But just thought I'd give you a quick overview of it before I start any major work on it. So this is some time before I actually do the main video. The first problem I have, and I have to address, is this, where the jaws have been stretched. I think there is a little bit of wear on this particular back jaw, because the jaw's not straight, it's actually curved to this end, so I think this side's been worn a bit. But out of squareness wise, this part of the jaw has been stretched. So I'm either going to have to press that back or bend it back somehow. So I'm going to address that first. I mightn't be able to show you footage of that, but I will definitely try to address it and straighten it up before I go on to the cleaning up and sort of partially, not restoring it, but restoring it to good working condition and cleaning it up a bit. Well, after a bit of persuasion, I preheated it, put it on a big block of steel that we had, and hit this corner with a large hammer. I know some of you out there would say that's not the proper way of doing it. I haven't got a big press to do it with, and so I did that. I hit that with the hammer there, and I noticed actually underneath this jaw here there's actually a slight crack, which could have been one of the main faults to it moving in the first place. So I'm going to have to address that, probably have to weld it up. There's a little bit of a crack on the top here too, just there as you can see. So I think when I hit it, the crack that was already on there caused this little one to open up a bit too. So I'll just keep working on it. I might have to dress the jaws a bit just to get this final bit out. Didn't really want to, but if I have to, I have to. This jaw here, I noticed from this point here is narrower than this point here, so I can take a little bit off this jaw probably, and that could probably fix it. We'll just see how it goes. So I'm going to use a wire brush and a grinder to clean this all up and to see what I have to do. There's a couple of bits of weld here from somebody welding in it in the past, here and here. I'll clean them up with a disc, and I'll just give it a general clean over on the top here just to see what needs addressing, because I have to weld that little crack underneath, and I'm not too sure if that is a crack on top. It may be a previous fold mark from when they forged it. It's a very hard thing to tell, but when I wire brush it I should be able to tell. So I'll just get in and do a little bit of that now. The other thing I noticed is there's a serial number of some sort stamped into it here. So I'll wire brush that off too and have a look at that, see what that says too. So there is a few numbers down there, just there, X63 looks like. So, and I noticed on the side, actually over here too, down here, there's a mark too. I'll just keep wire brushing. I'll put you back on for a bit more footage later. Coming up okay. A lot of dings and scratches in it, done a lot of work. If I could talk, I'd tell you a bit of a history. Anyway, I'll keep going on this. I'll keep flipping the camera around as much as I can so you capture as much footage as you can. And I'll show you step by step how I cleaned it up. There's a bit of a weld here where somebody has welded another part to a jaw in, a piece of steel in for a jaw over the years. The weld protrudes quite a bit, so I'm going to blend that in so it looks original. I have to weld up a few little spots here. There's quite a few pits over it I'll weld up at the same time, rust pits. This was actually lying on the ground when I got it, and it's a little bit rusted on this side, so I'll weld a few of those up while I've got it and cleaned it up as good as I could. I don't want to go overboard, I want to use it, but I want to get it so it's neat and tidy and serviceable. Hinge bolt, forged, locked in by a rounded key. And the thread's in very good condition for its age. Quite firm too still. I'll just take that out and dropping it on my toe hopefully. There's the thread. Like I say, it's in very good condition. I'd say it was well greased over the years, and that's what's preserved it amazingly. I was amazed when I picked it up, it was still free. I'm grateful for that. There's the female part of the thread. There is actually a name here, so I'm going to have a look at that and see what brand it is. That would be interesting to find out. I'm setting it up in the lathe just to sand that down and to clean it up a bit better. Actually first, before I even set it up, I'll give it a bit more of a wire brush, get any rough spots off. Give it a bit of a wire brush down. Now I'm going to fit that in my lathe. There we go. Might grab a bit of cardboard to cover the bed weight. I don't think I can do much more in there. There's some slight cracks just here and here from where they forged the head of the jaw. So I'm going to try to clean that out a bit, preheat it a bit, and run a bead of weld through there to try to repair that a bit. This is the back jaw now that I'm working on. The front jaw is a bit dirty too, but yeah. So I've welded that little bit of a gap that was there. Don't know if it was an overly a crack or what, but it needed doing, I think, so I did it. There's a few other little spots around the side here that I have to do too, so I'll go ahead and do all them too. The thread now. Right, just gonna rinse the threads out. I can't really get down inside there that good, so I'll just give it a rinse, I think. This is just a bit of petrol, and I'll just rinse it as good as I can. Pretty filthy down in there. I think I might have to get a bit more petrol. Right, yeah, so I'm just rinsing this for the last time. Well, thought it was in here. Still coming out dirty. Giving it a bit of a scrub up in there. I think that'll do it. I'll give it a blowout too with the compressor. There we go, that part should be right. Now it's just a matter of cleaning the thread. I'll give that a bit of a clean up with the wire brush too, I think. Now what I'll do is I'll start assembling it back together so I can start sorting out the jewels and what I need to do there. I've just given it a bit of a clean down. I'm just going to give this a bit of a coat with some rust sealant. It's an oily base sort of stuff, and seals it so it doesn't rust again. Well, it may rust again, but this stuff's pretty good. I just put a light coat of it on, then I give it a bit of a wipe over. It's always going to be a little bit of residue of rubbish, that dirty stuff that didn't clean off properly. Now I'll start assembly in a second, and we'll go from there. So I'll put that back down here like that. 1 second, I'll just get you in focus. Right, so I'll grease a few things as I go along, as I put it back together. Alright, so I'm going to grease the thread, as you'll see in the picture there. I'm going to grease the thread. I'm using a molybdenum disulfide grease. The reason I use a molybdenum disulfide grease on this sort of grease is usually made for like a slipping situation. So a thread like this would be more of a slipping situation. I will use it inside the hinge point down the bottom here too, but I'll put it on the thread. I'll put a fair bit on it just to do what we need to do. So I'll just put the glove on because it's filthy stuff to work with, and grease that up pretty good around that part of the thread. And then I'll also put it on the female part of the thread too. Put a bit more on the end of that so when we screw it in, and I'll also put it on the thrust washer at the front too. Just a little bit, you don't need a lot on that thrust washer. There we go. That's pretty well covered all that. Now, female part. I'll pretty well just wipe it in the opening there, and that'll pretty well do it for what I want. Just remove my glove. That gets rid of a lot of problems using a glove. That stuff goes everywhere. Okay, I'll just move that to the side. I forgot to put some on the thrust washer. That's a pain because then I'll have to get a dirty hand. Alright, I'll place that back in there. And I'll put it back in this little vise here. Just a thin smear on the washer, and I can start assembly now. That grease you get on you, it just goes everywhere. Put that in there and tap it down a bit. Put our bolt in. I'll do that nut up in a second. Right, so we just do this up firm. Some models used to have a leaf spring that came through here on that. I have a feeling this one may have had a coil spring up the top here. In the case, I'll keep my eye open for a spring that might fit between here. Now, sometimes the old inner spring mattresses had good sized springs, so I'll just keep my eye open for a spring that may work for up the top here to push it apart. Otherwise you just manually have to open it by hand. That'll do for the time being. Yeah, well, there we go. Well, that's far better than what it was. Okay, so now all we have to do is put the thread in. Put the thrust washer in. And the thread goes in. There we go. One voice repaired to service. I do have to do, I'll wait until that compressor cuts out. I still have to do a little bit of work on the jaws. There's a little bit of a gap still on one side. That was from wear, so what I might have to do is dress the jaws back and then recut the jaw teeth, just some little grooves for grip. These did have grooves initially on this particular vise. You can see the original grooves, so I will have to do that at some time. Not crucial, not crucial. You could use it now as is. I'd have to set it up with a post, etc. So I'll just take you down and show you. Alright, so compared to what it did before, I think it's come up quite good. I haven't put any sealant on the top here. I'll just pause you and put a... Okay, so here's the finished vise. Like I said, I have a little bit of work to do on the jaws. They're not too bad. You could use it as is. Like I said, just a little gap at this end, not a lot. Needs a good clean up with the jaws probably. I did clean them, but they need probably dressing and adjusting a bit more. A bit of a stretch there I cannot get out. If you actually look carefully, you can actually see the forge marks, where the hammer marks from where he did forge this old blacksmith. There's good forging marks here and all the way down. Sorry, I'll zoom out a bit. All the way down. You can actually, when I was cleaning up, you could actually see that somebody had actually hand forged these parts, and a long time ago, I'd say. The thread, I think, might have been a bought thread. He's welded the tongue on down here, and he's actually welded the jaws on up here too. He swaged these wider, and then he welded the jaws on, which was pretty good, I thought, in the sense of forge welded them on, not stick welded them on or arc welded them on. So, you know, what these old guys did was pretty good. But there you have it. Bit shinier on top because there was that bead of weld there, and there's some slag from where somebody used it for welding. So I just cleaned that up with a lap disc. It wasn't it's like a sanding disc I used. It wasn't a grinding wheel of any sort, but it came up okay. Alright, there you go. Thanks for joining us today as I partially restored. It wasn't a full restoration. I just basically cleaned it up as you saw I did in the video. I think it came up pretty good considering the age of it. I've still got some work to do on the jaws. I may just use it as is. They're very close to being in line. I might just have to put some grooves in the jaws for more grip. Some of you might be curious about the manufacturer. I couldn't find any more information, and it's very worn at that point. It said looked like solid forged, looked like patent pending, but I couldn't find a brand name. I'll try to include a photo that I took before, close up of that area. On this part of the thread, it had like a horseshoe shape. It looked like a horseshoe shape C, and that was all I could find manufacturer wise. I still have to mount it. I'll probably do that in another video in the future if I get a chance. I put the mounting bracket on. I may not be able to incorporate that in the mounting system I use, but nevertheless I thought it'd come up pretty good for the age. There's a lot of forging marks on here. Very old, probably well over 100 years old, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please hit the like and subscribe, and suggest me to your friends. I'd appreciate that. That'd be great help for the channel. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.